Well, there are just 2 days to go before the local government elections take place, and some believe this will be the most contested vote in the country in decades. There are concerns that low turnout is almost certain after the Constitutional Court ordered the election proceed despite the pandemic. Most voters have similar concerns about the delivery of basic services, including water and electricity. So is there and should there be a difference in voting issues during the local and national government elections? Let's take this up with Professor of Public Leadership with the University of Stellenbosch. That's Professor Zwelinzima Ndevu. Prof, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for being on News at Prime tonight. Let's begin right there. A local government election versus a national election. Should the issues be different? Are they?
Thank you for having me, Tembekile. Good evening to you and your listeners. The issues at local government elections and provincial and national governments will certainly be different. And the reason for that is that the issues at provincial and national government seems to be abstract to a normal, ordinary member of society. But local issues, they can relate to some of the challenges they experience on a daily basis. So whoever campaigns to be elected at that space must talk to the issues that the people are feeling immediately, that in the next day they will feel that there is no water in their vicinity, in their home, and as a result of those things, electricity and so forth, basic services. So they feel those things immediately. Those are the things that people feel on the daily basis. So they don't vote only for sentiments, but they vote informed by whoever would provide services more effectively for them. So they are certainly different.
But when you listen to the political party manifestos, does that distinction come across? Because the issues sound similar. It's about jobs. It's about making sure that people have housing, that people feel safe in their communities. So it's very easy to not be able to understand the differences.
Yes, I think one of the things that compounds this particular issue, besides the politicians sending a similar message or the same message, even if it's national or local government election, is that you also see the same faces campaigning at the different levels. So the message is clear. But the crux of the issue is the fact that you cannot ignore, even if you say you're creating jobs, but you must also talk about the local issues. The local issues such as bringing of infrastructure that would translate into job creations, revitalizing the local economy, ensuring that basic services are delivered to communities. So you cannot ignore, at provincial and national government election, you can talk about micro policies at that level, but you would need to talk at a local level when you deal with local government elections. And your message, while it is broad, but it's slightly different because you give specifics.
But I wonder then, you mentioned a key point about the faces of the campaigns for the various political parties. Yes, we're seeing the national leaders out and about, and you're introduced to the occasional mayoral candidate. Some parties this year, I'm thinking of ANC and EFF, have opted not to put forward the names of mayoral candidates, for instance. But for the voters, how many people actually worry about who a party puts forward for the role of mayor and a ward councillor, given that a lot of South Africans have an attachment to a specific political home anyway?
I think there is a lot of emphasis on who would then ultimately leave your local municipality. But the challenge we currently have are challenges internally within different political parties. We know once they immediately identify a particular person who would then lead that metro, there might be contestation, there might be divisions within that particular political party, which might spill over to the election campaign process. In many cases, is because those candidates might not be candidates that would necessarily be popular for different communities. For example, the president just not a while ago talked about the criteria that they have decided upon in their own political party to appoint people in mayoral position. This has also been happening in other political parties. It tells you about the intensity of that process of deciding on who should be a leader of a particular municipality as a mayor, and the sensitivity of the issue as well. They would rather wait until after the election where they mitigate the risk of conflict and disunity.
Let's talk about, you mentioned the ANC president, Cyril Ramaphosa. He's just a short time ago led the ANC's final election rally, the Siyanqoba rally in Soweto, and I was quite struck by a quote where he said, South Africans on the campaign trail have been understanding, they've been very forgiving towards the ANC, And you wonder if it is not precisely because South Africans have been so forgiving and understanding that the ANC has been able to retain such a large chunk of votes, even in cases where some might argue it's been undeserving.
The ANC president has to show confidence, has to project a picture of confidence around their election performance. It is expected by the nature of that particular rally is called Siyanqoba, which means that victory is certain, or we are marching towards victory. So in that sense, he has to show confidence. But I think what strikes me is the many times that he has repeated the acknowledgement of the faults or the shortcomings of the ruling party in municipalities that they've ruled in, and the emphasis that he has made on ensuring that they develop a strategy that would address some of these issues. So that, to me, means that there is an acknowledgement within that party that there are challenges, and they know that the South Africans have also picked up those issues. As to whether they have indeed forgiven them, we will see after Monday.
The Democratic Alliance has had some major public relations moments, shall we say, moments of weakness, poor judgment, if we can phrase it in that way. Some people offended, for example, by the posters that went up in the Phoenix area in KZN. Do you think the party has done the most damage to its ability to convince people to vote for it this election?
The challenge of the Democratic Alliance is that it always tries to strike a balance between their traditional voters who are normally in minority communities and to attract the votes of blacks and Africans in general, which are the majority. That's always the challenge. And they will try and appease that minority and also ensure that there's a balance with the majority. But in this case, that strategy failed dismally that they tried to employ in Durban. And as a result of that, I think that might have made a huge dent in their progress in campaigning. And that's probably why they have focused most of their energies in Nelson Mandela after that scandal.
So EFF leader Julius Malema, speaking earlier today also in Gauteng at a final election rally, said he thanks the EFF supporters for coming out. He's confident that they too will emerge victorious come November 1st. But in 2016, the EFF did not win control of any councils. It was, yes, a powerful player in the strategic alliances in the metros in Johannesburg and in Tshwane, because there was no party between the ANC and DA with an outright majority, 50+1. For the EFF, will they have the steepest hill to climb?
I think it's a very steep hill that they need to climb. Remember, they don't have any track record. As you correctly said, they have not run any municipality, so they come very clean without any track record. The issue with them is that the highest support or the biggest support base is young people. And I think the biggest challenge is to pulling those people to the election vote, to the voting station for them to vote. And once they have done that, they stand a chance to be kingmakers in some of the big municipalities in Gauteng and probably in Durban as well, which they are the highest, fastest growing party. But other than that, I don't see them winning an outright metro or a big municipality for that matter.
Professor Zwelinzima Ndevu, Professor of Public Leadership with Stellenbosch University, grateful for your time on this Friday evening, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.